Hey everybody, it's Scott from Dicey Decisions. I am here today continuing my work on building a campaign frame for Daggerheart in a pirate theme. So, one second everybody. What'd you say, Brandy? How is that? Is that any better? How is that? Perfect. Brandy's helping me get my audio levels set. So anyway, I'm here working on the campaign frame that I'm building for Daggerheart. Those of you that may not know much about Daggerheart is they have come up with several different campaign frames that they've created as examples for playing groups to come up with their own versions of campaign frames, and they put out a homebrew kit document where I have gathered the information about campaign frames here, and I'm basically cutting and pasting, going through the concept of a campaign frame in a pirate theme that I am trying to do for a future campaign, hopefully. Brief overview. The concept is daring deeds, high stakes, and of course the search for treasure abound in this region of the high seas infested with monsters of the deep, ancient curses, and piracy. The basic pitch is players will get to explore piracy on the high seas. They will be rewarded for their daring escapades and willingness to push themselves to the limit in search of treasures and renown. Players will form a pirate crew exploring the surrounding seas and islands rich with treasure and adventure. That's the basic pitch. Some tone and feel words that came up with was swashbuckling, larcenous, mysterious, comedic, whimsical, high stakes, buccaneering, dangerous, and epic. And I've been working with folks on Dicey Decisions Discord that I asked this morning for some input from folks about their opinions of what makes something pirate-like, and got a bunch of feedback from our players and also from some of our followers and fans, and it's been kind of really super helpful and helping me kind of wrap my head around what people would expect to see in a pirate-themed game. That being said, this is an ever-changing document, so I'm going to be kind of making things work. So some of the themes I think we would have is pirate rivalry. I think is a big, fun thing to explore in this campaign frame. The pirate code and defining what that might be. People versus nature. I definitely think that there needs to be an element of danger of the seas themselves. Some strange creatures, of course. Ancient curses, and of course robbery, heists, and things like that. So some of those themes might end up doing some additional themes and whatnot. So real quick, I'm gonna pull out another tab out off to the side over here, and that's muted. Which it is. So in case anybody does join me in the Twitch, I would be able to chat with you here if I see you post anything. Awesome. Let me let my Discord folks know. All right. So, two of the things I've left that are going to become part of the campaign frame is a complexity rating. They rate it from 1 to 4. I'm thinking it's mostly going to be a 2 because I will be adding some mechanics. It might end up being pushed to a 3 depending on how involved those mechanics get, but we'll see. Obviously, some touchstones: the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, Muppet Treasure Island, Master and Commander, Treasure Island, Pirate Borg as a game. If anybody has tried that, it's a lot of fun and had very piratey themed. And then my plan is to build the mechanics first and then come back and do a one-page overview of the campaign frame as a whole. So those are 2 items that I have marked in yellow there that I'm going to be coming back to after I do some of the work of the design of the campaign frame. So these are some parts that I've started and done a little bit more research that I wanted to incorporate. So looking at the heritage and classes section of the campaign frame, one is starting with the communities. All communities are available, but some have unique aspects within the Adventure at the High Seas campaign. As needed, provide the following information to your players, and choose 1 or more questions to ask them at your session 0, which is another section that'll happen later on. Is the session 0 section. So Seaborn, I wanted to think about the possibility of them having some sort of advantage in a campaign like this, although I don't know that I want to do a mechanical advantage that is specific to giving advantage on die rolls or anything like that, but I do want it to be somewhat advantageous for Seaborn characters, people who choose that those communities to be there. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to start typing here. Given the nautical nature of this campaign, characters from the Seaborn background would be highly common. Their life on the coast has equipped them with the knowledge and experiences to navigate the high seas environments. High seas and coastal. Again, trying to make this more about flavor than about a mechanic. Seaborn characters receive receive makes it sound like there's a mechanical advantage, but I want to say something along the lines of receive deference or receive the ability to have. Thank you, Justin. I will change my title. Building a campaign frame in Daggerheart - Pirates. Done. All right. Thank you for catching that, Justin. Or I should say, Monkey Sandwich, as you appear in Twitch. Life on the coast has equipped them with the knowledge and experiences to navigate the high seas and coastal environments. I can't spell. Seaborn characters recognize and respect each other even if rivals, even if amidst any rivalries. Leave it like that. So I think that's good to give a flavor of how they are. Recognize and respect, even amidst any rivalries. Great. So the Slyborn. Also, I wanted to give something of an advantage here. Again, I'm not trying to give a mechanical advantage per se. However, piracy and the Slyborn kind of feel like they go hand in hand. And wanted to look into that a little bit deeper. So, a pirate's life is one of secrets let's go back. The path of a pirate's life crosses with many others whom they share both secrets and falsehoods, secrets and lies, depending on their rivalries. The Slyborn, given the nature of respect of each other, journeys, the pirate code, and I'll put C below, allows for those of the Slyborn community to freely share their information as they see fit without repercussions or repercussions. Ships, captains, rely on their Slyborn crewfolk to keep them informed and raise through the ranks of their crews accordingly. All right. Again, not sure if any of these are going to relate to an actual mechanical advantage later on as we build out some of the additional mechanics within the campaign frame, but I do think that it's good. Yes, I know, I'm talking to my keyboard. So my thoughts on this are going to be the community has, the Slyborn community is going to have some way to use their typical community power to help their crewmen and be a valuable part. My point being is I think I'm trying to create a situation where those of the Seaborn, Slyborn, possibly Wanderborn and Wildborn are natural choices for this campaign frame. And I think that as I look at the other campaign frames in Daggerheart, that's more what they want you to talk about with communities and not necessarily say, hey, this particular community gets an advantage, and leave that up to the individual table and situation and GM to reward an advantage situation if the case might be. So I think that's the goal with these. So looking at the Wanderborn, and I'm going to take a moment and pull that one open because I am less familiar with the Wanderborn. I think my goal with the Wanderborn was to talk about them being natural, have a natural affinity towards sailing, in the sense that they are drawn to travel. They don't like staying in one location per se, and the seas offer a lot of varied possibilities in that regard. So I think that will be a kind of how I word all of that specifically. Can't find them. Oh, are they after the after ancestries? Hold, please. There we go. Wanderborn. Ooh. There we go. So their normal community feature is add a nomadic pack to your inventory, and once per session you can spend a hope to reach into this pack and pull out a mundane item that's useful to your situation. Work with the GM to figure out what you take out. That's all the mechanic of a Wanderborn, but the flavor is that they've lived as a nomad, forging a permanent home and experiencing a wide variety of cultures. So they are very much about being more culturally savvy, I guess. So maybe in this particular one, I'm going to turn this off, make it clearer to see. Maybe in this particular one we'll go with given their lust for new horizons, Wanderborn. Given their lust for new horizons, Wanderborn find themselves on pirate crews quite often. Their desire to travel makes them eager sailors and or makes them eager soldiers, and they bring their vast knowledge of cultures to their captain and crew. Now, maybe they're oh, I think that's enough. I think we'll keep this one pretty simple. Next was the Wildborn, I believe. Live deep within the forest. I don't know that this is appropriate given the climates we may or may not be in. However, although the seas are the predominant landscape of this region, several of the islands have dense forests and ancient jungles, providing great inspiration for those that choose the wild-born community. I think that's a good start. I might revisit both of these. Though the high seas are the predominant landscape of this region, several of the islands have dense forests and ancient jungles, providing great inspiration for those that choose the wild-born community. Yeah, I think both of these are a good start. And we can see where that takes us. Hello, Mr. Flakes23. Thanks for your first time chat. Hello, welcome. All right. I wanted to do a quick shout out for the two of the ancestries specifically that I think have something to say in a campaign that's pirate themed. And the first one is the biggest one to tackle. And I had a conversation with Brandy, who's one of our players in our stream, and my fiance, just this morning about this, because she's actually a science teacher and can help me understand the difference between mushrooms, which are the basis for the Fun Girl ancestry, and barnacles, which are completely unrelated to mushrooms. However, in my head, there's some interesting similarity in that, things that grow on other things, right? And that's where I was kind of connecting those two pieces of the puzzle. And instead of coming up with a new ancestry, I thought it would be easy to maybe take the fungal ancestry and make a possible modification. So instead, I was going to give it additional power than it had to include barnacles, but because barnacles and fungus are two totally different things, I think we are going to make a alternate fungal option available. So let me look at what I have written and mess with the wording on that. So the fungal normally has an ability to, I believe it is, communicate with other funguses. I will read that real quickly because I think it's important. They have the fungal network. Make an instinct roll to use your mycelial array to speak with others of your ancestry. On a success, you can communicate across any distance with other fungal, basically. And then death connection. While touching a corpse that died recently, you can mark a stress to extract one memory from the corpse related to a specific emotion or sensation of your choice. So what I want to do is give an opportunity for the fungrel to have a barnacle version instead of a mushroom version. So, in addition of having the fungrel ancestry available as presented, players can choose instead to have their network connection ability refer to barnacles instead of fungus. Their appearance would make them more barnacle-like. And I'm obviously taking this directly from Pirates of the Caribbean, where I forget the character's name. I'm terrible at character names like that, but where it was somebody's father was actually being slowly absorbed by the ship. And I'm kind of going with that feel and that flavor. Their appearance would make them more... no, this ability... This ability would allow for the network connection to reach out to barnacles on ships, and these characters can flavor their appearance as appropriate. And I want to make this an either or. This means you can play a standard fungrel who communicates with mushrooms, and or one that can communicate with barnacles, but not both. All right. So that was my take on that, and I wanted to clarify that a little bit deeper as I look through that. Next would be the Galapa. And really this is a flavor thing. I wanted the Galapa to be considered good luck to sailors. So the tortoise feel and the seafaring tortoise I think makes a very interesting, they're good luck charms for captains who end up with Galapa on their crew. So, members of the Galapa ancestry are considered good luck to have on your ship's crew when on board a seafaring vessel. I was going to do an advantage thing. Galapa are often fill the role of mascots or the like, even to their chagrin. I just think that's a fun role play possibility, and often their counsel is considered quite valuable to sailors and captains alike. So give them a little role-play boost there, per se. Again, not with a mechanical advantage, but something that just gives them, a little fun nod to the fact that they are, in this world, considered to be special. I think that fits the theme I'm going for with that. What about some form of Caribbean witchcraft? Like, I think it was Calypso in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean, maybe an ancestry. Yes, so that's possibility there, Monkey Sandwich. I'm definitely, it's coming up down a little bit of ways. One of the things I'll be doing when I do custom mechanics is curses in play. So I wanted to have something about curses being a part of the game that might have its own special mechanic. Whether someone like Calypso could be played in the Void, which is the Darrington Press's playtest material. There's already a witch class, which I could easily see someone playing a witch class in a pirate campaign and playing a Calypso-like character. I think that would be a ton of fun. And that's another thing I'm trying to do, is I'm trying not to say, ooh, let's build a pirate. I'm wanting the existing classes to be flavored as any of them could be pirates, which they all could be. I don't want to build a pirate frame and then everybody plays this pirate class, and everybody who plays this class plays that kind of character. I'm wanting people to flavor their seraph. What would a seraph of piracy be? And those kind of things. So that's more what I'm shooting for, as far as that goes. Could be an ancestry though, because you do point out a possible ancestry would be interesting to possibly layer in and add to that. So I think once I get through what I mean by curses and the mechanic around curses, I think we'll look at the possibility of adding ancestries more so than classes. I think make a lot more sense. Maybe even a pirate ancestry, which means you are you've only ever been a pirate. But again, I don't want everybody to be like, oh, you built the pirate ancestry, we're all going to pick that and play that. I'm trying to find ways to make existing classes, existing ancestries feel more pirate-y. So, hello, Wild Bagels. Good to see you. Hello, hello. Electric Stell is what I'm going to say. And if I'm saying it wrong, please correct me. Welcome to the chat as well. Seraph of Piracy could be a super devotee of Davy Jones. Absolutely. Right? Those kind of things would be a great way to flavor your particular given character. Those things would be a lot of fun. All right, so classes. I'm looking at the classes now. We've got all classes are available. Some have unique aspects with an Adventure of the High Seas campaign, which is the name I have of this. By the way, I'm calling it the Adventure on the High Seas campaign frame. I think it needs a more piratey name, but I didn't want to get like really hokey and be like the Yo-Ho campaign frame or anything like that. So if you have any fun names for what this campaign frame should be called, Adventure on the High Seas is kind of by default right now because it's kind of a catch-all. But maybe it'll get a better flavor as far as that goes. So I wanted to give a few shout outs to certain classes specifically because I think that again, maybe not necessarily anything that has special powers, but to say that these are classes that are sought after. And the first one obviously is a bard. Because as Funky Sandwich pointed out on our Discord, shanties are important, and I absolutely agree. I think that's something that has to be highlighted. So, bards, since renown, I'm going to be doing a renown mechanic as part of this. So, since renown is a major factor in this campaign frame, bards have a great power in their ability to promote themselves and others through performances. I used through instead of through. I'll fix it. See, it's even telling me to fix it. Do you feel better, Justin? Sea shanties, nautical poems, and dueling dances abound. Depending on whom the bard is promoting, they may decide they're welcome at each port, tavern, or ship. So I kind of, again, want this to be a role play thing, but that the bards are a factor in how people get to know of pirates' activities. And I should speak on that. So as far as the things I'm going to build that are very specific to this campaign frame, I talked a little bit about the curses. There's definitely going to be firearms, and there is already some rules, I believe, in the core book about firearms. But if there needs to be any update on that or inclusion of something different, I'm going to do that. Obviously, naval combat and navigation. I want there to be situations about how the party can involve themselves, how they can interact with the ship during a ship-to-ship fight, or a ship-to-creature fight, or a ship versus the environment situation. So those three things I'm going to have to flesh out with the naval combat section later. And then I really wanted there to be something of a renowned system. You know, something that's really, really, really important to me is the concept from the Pirates of the Caribbean movie of, oh, but you have heard of me. You know, I think that's a big thing. And I want to build some sort of mechanic that the players can kind of dive into to either use their renown like a resource the way that hope is used. So maybe they can build up renown and spend it. Or just a tracker of renown so that as the campaign grows, the pirates are all trying to gain more and more renown. Now, the tricky part about that is I kind of want there to be some level of like individuality to it, because obviously this pirate needs to get one up on this pirate to become the new captain or what have you. I want to do something with a renown system that works in that way but doesn't force PvP ugliness, right? So that's just what's kicking around in my head. I'm saying that out loud for those of you that might be watching or listening, and just to be percolating on that, because that's going to be coming down the pike as well. And that's why I refer to the renown system and stuff as that goes. So that's kind of where I felt about the bards. Next, I think it's important to shout out to druids in terms of that, to make sure that they're highly sought out for members of a cruise ship, as their abilities make them invaluable to a ship's crew. You know, and you know, their presence, I think this might lead into the whole voodoo thing, their presence on board may bring great their presence on board ships may bring great word that I'm not finding, great something, or be a sign of danger to come, and the druids revel in that role. I really want people that choose to play druids to realize that they So, all right, looking back at the chat, Electrocell said Ghost of the Misty Tides named for the frame. That's not bad. I like that. I definitely like Misty Tides because I was trying to come up with something that was about the seas but has more mystery to it. So Misty Tides, I love. Ghosts, I might steer clear of because I don't want people to feel like they have to do undead type environments, although I expect there would be lots of undead in a pirate campaign. I don't want it to become about undead. So, Sailors of the Misty Tides or Pirates of the Misty Tides might work. But I definitely like Misty Tides. Yeah, and so does Monkey Sandwich there. Wild Bagel's eye rolled at Justin. That's awesome. Unless it was at me. Maybe it was at me. Who knows? Firearms are a mechanic in the Colossus of the Drylands frame setting. Yes. I knew that they're in the Colossus of the Drylands. I thought there might be some in the base equipment section. I wanted to check that first before stealing from another campaign frame. So where is equipment? Equipment. Page 112. All right. Primary, secondary weapon statistics. Tier 1. Magic weapons. Let's see. Physical. Secondary weapons tables. Nope, that's just for secondary hands. Armor tables. Nope. Loot. I don't see it. See if there's a firearms. No, I don't see firearms. I'll look that up. I'll have to look that up. I know, I do know Colossus of the Drylands does have something for it, so maybe that's just a port directly into this campaign frame as well. Although I don't want to be seen as taking something that is not open license, and technically the only campaign frame that is in their open license is their Witherwild, so I would want to check with some people before I actually ported that over directly. I love electric cells, a sign of good or evil. Presence on board ships may may bring great good or evil. And the druids revel in that role. Rangers, I wanted to talk to them about them possibly pulling flying creatures to help with as companions, because I think that would make them really invaluable on a ship. Obviously, ones that pick companions that are in the water are valuable for in the water moments, but not necessarily as specific to all of the environments being coastal environments, going on to islands and things like that. So, but a handful of bag or a chest of renown, right. Much like their the money situations, possibly having renown be something that is trackable. Many rangers choose flying animal companions to help them scout the seas and become excellent guides on ship or on island explorations. Finding the right flavor of companion to fit the nautical nature of the campaign should be a discussion with your GM. Because again, I wouldn't want someone to pick a animal companion that only swims, and then whatever the GM of this campaign frame might have more plans to have fights happen in taverns on islands or in jungles on islands, and then somebody feels disenfranchised by their choice to pick a companion that could swim. So I want to make sure that is something that that stays open and available. Magic wielding classes, and I said this specifically, and this is a flavor thing. I'm really hoping that for this campaign frame, folks would flavor their magic to be tied to the elements. Either maybe a devotion to the goddess of the waves, or tapping into the natural power of wind, that all magic has some level of elemental nature. So if you want to play a character that, does all of their magic and all of their magical effects visually look a certain way, I would hope you would lean towards describing them more about the power of nature and making that a force, because I want the power of nature to feel like a massive force within the campaign. And then the last thing I wanted to do for classes, and I think this might end up being something that goes down in distinctions instead of classes, because distinctions, this is what they write about what you're supposed to do with distinctions, or what specifically set the world of the campaign frame apart from other settings. They are the tent poles holding up the canvas of the campaign. The supports the GM will build their story on top of. They establish the pillars of the campaign, including core truths about the setting, major locations, prominent groups, factions, narrative elements that contribute to the setting's atmosphere, or themes such as culture, important historical events, recent catastrophes, conflicts, and cosmology, and more. Notably, they do not include custom rules for the campaign frame. Those come later in their own section. So I don't know if this would be a distinction or a rule, but basically making sure that everybody knows that they would have access to pistols and firearms. That it's not going to be something that is specific to any class or any specific community or anything like that, that I wanted everybody to feel like they could be carrying a pistol because it's a pirate campaign and those would be relatively common. I do want to look at the rules once I find them about the pistols and what have you, and kind of go from there. So these are some player principles and GM principles I came up with last time, and I wanted to reiterate because I think it kind of needs to be said to look at these other things and make sure they're all fitting. So player principles. At your character's core, they are pirates. So the goal is that I'm trying to make a campaign frame where people want to play pirates. Not that they are playing the goody-goody in a pirate campaign. Not to say that they can't disagree with different moral codes and what have you. But I don't want someone necessarily coming into this campaign being frustrated by the fact that why are we always doing pirate things? That is the campaign frame. We're doing pirate things. So I want people to kind of buy into that. Consider how a life of piracy excites and fulfills them. Lean into the pirate lifestyle in your character's actions, as well as in flavoring your character's powers and abilities. Remember that piracy need not be good or evil per se, but should always have a hint of self-service and self-preservation in your actions. Then the mighty and mystical sea. The sea is a harsh mistress as well as a never-ending source of exploration and excitement. Find the wonder and joy and the fear in all things in the environments you explore. Even the dangerous powers of the ocean are beautiful to behold, and even the most exotic and beautiful sea creature might be deadly to touch. So really wanting characters to kind of lean into the environments they're going to find themselves in. And then reputation is everything. In a world of piracy, your reputation is your greatest asset and ally. Build your reputation as often as you can. Make others take notice of you, except while nipping a coin purse, of course. Be your own best pitch person, as your renown will follow you. Again, wanting people to buy into that whole thing of the goal here is to be a powerful entity within this region, right? To become something big, kind of that grand scale feeling. Game Master Principles. Piracy needs stuff to acquire. Be sure to tempt your players with treasure, loot, magic items, and renown. Every scene should have an element of something to gain, not only collectively but personally if possible. Give them reasons to be pirates. So put them in situations where the concept of being a pirate is right there in front of them for them to seize if they so choose or are capable of it. This one's a big tenet for me. The environments need to come alive. Make the environments wondrous, mysterious, and dangerous, and even literally have some come alive. The characters should ride the line of wonder and fear as they approach each new environment. Adversaries can be terrorizingly beautiful or beautifully terrorizing. And I wanted to add, and the environments should add to the swashbuckling nature of all encounters. And for that, I mean, I really want to make sure, like, yes, you have a sword fight. We've watched, Pirates of the Caribbean, and you see a sword fight that happens, but they did it in a mill with moving machinery, and thus the fight became this dynamic thing that happened while on this moving scenery. I think that's super important to have environments that are huge and moving and reactionary to the actions of the characters, and give the characters things to try and interact with and be the big damn pirate heroes they're trying to be. I think that's super important. Opening theme from One Piece starts to play. Ooh, what's One Piece? Do I not know what One Piece is? If you're still there, Stell, please tell me what One Piece is. The last is pirate life is bigger than normal life. If the life of adventurers is large, then pirate life needs to be huge. Reactions are bigger, emotions are bigger, stakes are bigger. Just when the end is in sight, a new obstacle appears, and the battle rages on. So, again, these should be really big things that kind of build in momentum and build an excitement on each other. I don't know. You don't know One Piece. I'm getting yelled at by Monkey Sandwich. One Piece is a pirate anime. Pirate anime. It's like 1,300 episodes, so have fun catching up. Great. Now I have homework. But if it's pirate themed, I'm dying to consume it. When I first had the idea of this, I watched through all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, just to put that kind of feel in my head to start working on that. So those are the player and GM principles I kind of wanted to bring into this as far as that goes, and I've cleaned up the first section. So you'll notice everything else is now yellow. Oh, these are some of the ideas that came from the chat in our Discord. Indigo wrote, I asked for just things that people felt needed to be present in a pirate campaign to make sure I was covering these kind of things. Treasure, the idea of curses and maybe islands. Calaire wrote ship fights, fake death by at least one NPC. Justin Monkey Sandwich here wrote bar fights, taverns, grog, wenches, boarding ships, evading the law, beaches, sword fights, muskets, cannons, sharks, krakens, walking the plank, and most importantly, shanties. Aramac wrote an eerie shipwright named Shinbones. I'm totally stealing that. I love that. Different made-up gambling games for downtime while on the ship travels, to which Calaire also answered that, Liar's Dice, as a response to the gambling games. I love the gambling games. I think that should definitely be part of these things. Again, these are things that I think would be present in a campaign. They may not be necessary to put in the campaign frame, but they give me ideas of flavor to write when I go back and I write the one-page long overview of the campaign frame. I can put things like that in there to give GMs who want to use this campaign frame inspiration to build their thing. I have another through. I fixed it. He didn't catch it. I fixed it. All right. So again, thinking through some of these things, and I think the things that have me wanting, or I want to make sure I get right, are the things that are actual potential custom mechanics within the game, right? And their example here is your custom mechanics might aim to impact the campaign in any of the following ways or another way entirely. They may add more detail to the aspect of the world, like the corruption mechanics in the Witherwild and the rules for dangerous rests in the Age of Umbra. And that's where I want to do something possibly with curses. I think some of the research I need to do with this in-game is look at any powers in-game that mention curses, so that I take either I do something that makes those existing powers unique for the game, or am I layering in the possibility of a curse being just something that is an outside mechanic in general, which is why I said curses in play, whether it's existing ones. And I think it's important to lean into that voodoo style magic with this and that kind of thing too, but also realize that a curse could be put on an item just like we have in normal TTRPGs all the time, but that depends on what what level of, like, is this a GM only curse thing that happens as a game mechanic, or are we giving players the option to also use their powers in a way that is curse-like? So I want to make sure I'm not stepping on mechanical toes of different classes. So I want to say look at any powers in-game that mention curses, and then develop curses for items / locations and I'm going to put in parentheses environments, because that's the term we use when we're building an environment in the game in Daggerheart. So yeah, so now I'm going to change this to green, as that is now ready to be further looked at and developed. Firearms, let's get back to that question. Colossus of the Drylands. And again, this is not SRD material, I'm just looking. So there are some campaign mechanics for revolver, rifle, and shotgun, as well as small revolver for Colossus of the Drylands. So there's already mechanics in play that kind of fit within the class build system. I'm going to probably not use all of it. I don't think the shotgun, well, maybe a scatter shotgun would fit. I'll do some period research if I wanted to make this feel more like a standard Pirates of the Caribbean situation. I know that they used revolvers and rifles in those movies. I think that making sure that it felt appropriate to the world. I don't know that I'm worried that much about saying which world are we in. Again, you know, thinking of Daggerheart and how they're handling things, the campaign world is still wide open. The campaign frame is more like a piece of a world or a part of a world that doesn't necessarily even accommodate a full world's worth of stuff per se, but it is meant to build a campaign environment that everybody has kind of agreed to play within. And I think that's important, super important. I love that aspect about this system. So I definitely want to, sure. So I'm going to change that to pull firearms from, what is it, the Colossus of the Drylands. And then I'm going to just put an asterisk to say, or a note saying, check permissions. And then naval combat and navigation. This is going to be the biggest piece of this that I think needs a lot of development, so I want to break it down into kind of a little bit more details of, or start asking questions. How can the PCs interact with the ship during environmental or adversarial environmental scenes, or sorry, ship with regard to environmental or creature adversaries, as well as other ships and their crews. I would want there to be some level of ability for the crew to take actions that are almost separate, I think, from their normal actions they would take, in the sense of maybe this new mechanic is that when a scene starts, or a environment crops up. Let's say a storm blows in, right? And there's a stat block for the environmental storm that gets created separate of this document. But there's an existing environment. Is there a mechanic we want to put in place that lets the PCs man the crew of the ship so that they end up feeling like they are the ones assisting in the success or failure of the ship's passage through the environment? And how to do that in a way, because some classes might have powers and abilities that they would want to use personally that would be useful and helpful, and you don't want to disenfranchise that. So is there a way to maybe add a separate action? Maybe it's a different action economy as a custom mechanic for these moments where every time you get the spotlight, you get to do an action and a nautical action. What's your nautical action this turn? And have a series of nautical actions that are possible to add to the ongoing scene, right? And then, naval combat navigation, active PCs and drops ship regarding environment, and their crews, question mark, and then possible additional nautical actions for each spotlight. In addition to standard actions. And then just put, spotlight as an action plus a nautical action. That's interesting, because then what that could do is I could also get into a situation where I could easily see like an adversarial component, and just thinking that's something that's very cinematic and very much in the world of the pirate campaigns and whatnot, is you're fighting the Kraken. And maybe the Kraken has an ability that if they succeed on a check against you or whatever, they grapple you and they take away your nautical action. So there's one less nautical action that can happen for the turn. So that's interesting to me. Here I am gifting new actions and taking them away. A typical, stereotypical game master right there. But just trying to think of something that feels dynamic in nature and feels like there's a stake in the ship and its well-being as much as there is in the character and their individual choices and powers that they have inherently into themselves. So, and maybe the nautical actions tie to their renown as a pirate. That might be a fun little thing too. At different levels of renown, your nautical action has different bonuses or things like that. That's just something to think about. Possible connection to a pirate renown. Renown system below. All right. So that's going to be what I work on next on that topic, or those two topics really. Let's put that to the green, and I'm going to separate them out and do that one and that one, and then For the renown system, I want to look into the factions in FBB, Five Banners Burning, for inspiration. And again, I think I'm least ready to tackle that one, but now I have a action item for it. So these are my next 3 action items as far as that goes. I don't think I'm ready to jump back into any of these yet because I think I want to have those mechanics in place. But I got a lot of the green that I had on here off, which is really exciting. All right, so let's see. Electric Stell says there are different jobs on a boat: shipwright, cook, powder monkey, etc. Each player could sign up as one of these and perform a relevant action. I definitely feel that that's, you know, if we want to go the route of the you know, the realism within our fantasy, right, is having those elements kind of covered and making sure that somebody's doing each of those. And obviously you get into situations with, well, there would also be NPC sailors possibly doing some of this. And I think that there's, you know, maybe there's something to be said about a mechanic that if we did it by position, we would want to have a default, even a default sailor stat block or something that would allow them to take those actions if an action of each type was necessary, kind of thing. I'm kind of thinking to steer away from an action of each type, although I like the categories to give players options to play towards their wheelhouse. So if some actions might favor a stat over other actions favoring another stat, and I think that's particularly useful. So I think maybe figuring out a way to have multiple options for players to choose from, but also not have it ruin the you know, plausibility of the ship actually doing things if there's not enough characters, if there's nobody, you know, who is playing the role of the shipwright, or nobody who's playing the role of the powder monkey, etc. I wouldn't want there to be, you know, maybe try to figure that out. So I'll be looking at some other game systems. Pirate Bork is one of the ones I'll be looking at for their naval combat stuff and try to see if there's any inspiration there. As far as how they handle that with different character actions and things like that. I think that's super important to look at. Higher renown gives them more access to higher tier munitions and gear. I definitely think tying renown into quality of the ship is a great concept. Like that to me sounds like it could really pay off in fun ways and drive the players to want to build their renown so that they get access to bigger, better things on their ship. I think that's got a lot of merit. So I'm going to put that note into the renown system here. I love that. Thank you very much, Electric Stell, on that. And then possible renown levels tied to available ship equipment / abilities. Some of the jobs could also apply to narrative actions instead of strictly combat actions. Like the cook could have an additional downtime action along the lines of, if the cook prepares during downtime, they can give an additional hope to 1d4 players or something like that. Yeah, I think that's interesting to build some RP related ship actions. I'm going to add that as another question to ask. If use roles for navigation and combat, think about using downtime abilities tied to those roles. I love that. I love that. I think that kind of lives and breathes in the world a lot, like the world of being on ships and things like that. I like that a lot. Excellent ideas. Electric Stell, I think that's fantastic. Thank you. You've done a lot of help and given me a lot of things, including 1,300 episodes of anime to watch. So I really appreciate that. Thinking through where to take this next. Just want to double check where I'm going with. I'm gonna bump this and say likely 2 or 3 in terms of complexity, because I'm definitely feeling like that's moving up. Distinctions, what sets the world of the campaign frame apart from the others. Tentpoles holding up the canvas of the campaign. Pillars. First things you develop when creating campaign frames, they serve as pillars. Convey the way magic functions in this world. So maybe that's where I move. Gives me another yellow to do. And look at classes, which is where I talked about that. That's a way down the line thing, so I don't want to do that yet. I think I want to mention something here that has to do with how does renown affect social interactions. I think that needs to be answered in that. Basically, how does the world see the pirates? Major figures, establish the gods or other powerful beings. That's way down the line for me, not quite yet. Inciting incident is again start of the campaign idea. We're into custom mechanics, so I'm going to change that now to green. Sorry, I color code things, and map. So again, taking a quick look at other people's ideas. Gambling. Rum definitely needs to be involved, for sure. Messages in a bottle. Snarky talking. I just thought it was snarky talking parrots, not pirates. For sure. Stolen maps, grappling hooks, inventive cursing, tattoos. I'm going to highlight tattoos here because I think that's also a potential interesting magical thing. Being at ages 12 to 65, rhyming, iocane powder, ransom notes, peg legs. Iocane powder may be copyrighted. Ransom notes, peg legs, and hook hands. I think that's definitely needs to get added to the equipment list and give options. Because also in Daggerheart, those of you that have played might know this, and some of you may not have gotten there. You can take scars, and what better scar for a pirate than to lose a section of their leg or a hand or fingers or whatever, and end up having a different option for what they look like. So I think that's good. Again, the idea of different games I think is important. Running from the Navy, absolutely. There will be good guys, right? Not the party that are trying to stop piracy for sure. Archipelagos, secret hideouts, all those types of locations are super important. Electric Snell, by the way, I am Ermac in your Discord. I've been lazy and haven't changed my name back from our Daggerheart one-shot. Gotcha. Well, welcome, Ermac. So I'm glad to make that connection in both of those cases. I'm just trying to use the name on the stream for people on the stream so they see. It doesn't matter to me which one you go by. But yes, welcome. So I think that's about what I'm ready to end today's stream about. This has given me my next series of workshopping ideas that I will then work on offline and bring back and flesh out. But this will, if I were to continue now, it would be a lot of me diving into books that are on shelves behind me and sitting here doing a whole lot of nothing. Which isn't fun for streaming, but it is definitely a good start, or a good continuation. This is the second session of this I've done to get this far, and I'm really encouraged by where I feel this center section right here is, so it gives me a lot to work on moving forward. Thanks for joining me. There's a few of you that have joined and watched, and I will put this up on our YouTube for other people to watch later on, and you can always reach out to us, Dicey Decisions, on our Discord channel, and we stream. Currently we have 2 full D&D campaigns that we are running. Our Friday night campaign is our Twist of Fate campaign that is running through Turn of Fortune's Wheel with Book of Many Things content into Vecna Eve of Ruin, and that's our Friday night game. And then our Monday night game is Zeros to Heroes, is a more narrative-driven D&D game based in Taldore from Critical Role. That's run by our buddy Jack on Monday nights. And then we also do weekly one-shots where we are trying to come up with different one-shots to offer each week. We invite members of our Discord to join us and play in those one-shots with us, whether it be trying out a game like Daggerheart. We did a second Learn to Play session of Daggerheart this past Thursday, 3 days ago. And had a lot of fun with that, getting a few more players involved in learning the rules of Daggerheart as we start to dive into this possibility. I'm not going to lie, I'm not building this campaign frame just to put this campaign frame out there for others to use, although I will likely do that when I'm done with it. But I am doing this in hopes that eventually I will run a streamed pirate campaign, at least even a multi-part one, if not a full-on long campaign with the Daggerheart rule set down the line. So, but none of that is set in stone as of yet. So, but we got a lot going on, and we'd love to have you guys join us. So, find us on our Discord channel at Dicey Decisions, and then also. Come watch one of our streams here on Twitch and interact with us there. We'd love to have you, and we'll see you around the gaming table. Catch you next time. Yes, I am sexy, Justin.